Welcome to Zen Footsteps. My podcast is designed to invite you to explore new perspectives and challenge the way you see the world. Through engaging conversations with thought-provoking guests, we're going to delve into the idea that you can transform your thinking and inspire personal growth. From redefining success to uncovering unconventional paths to fulfillment, each episode is a step towards expanding your mind and embracing the journey of discovery. So join us as we walk alongside innovators, thinkers, and change makers who can help you see life in a whole new light. Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Zen Footsteps. Welcome to the podcast. I have a great guest here today, Elizabeth Lang. And now Elizabeth's going to explain some of this terminology as we go through, but basically she's an RTT therapist. She's been trained by Marissa Peer herself and is currently part of Marissa's Inner Belief program and her fertility program, I Am Fertility. Fertility is often caused by mental blocks, and Elizabeth has helped clients naturally with the help of IVF to carry full-term babies all the way through. Now, something that Elizabeth really enjoys being part of too. So before we move into transformational work, Elizabeth lived a few different sort of chapters of her life, which is what I always think makes people interesting when they've lived chapters of their life and been faced with adversity. She was an actress like myself. I don't think she knows that about me too. And also owned her own cafe in London. In England, we tend to say caf, and French we say café, so it sounds even more romantic. She's also the author of 2 books focused on relationships, which is now adapting into script. She's based in Tunbridge Wells, which is in the UK and England for you international listeners. And she's there with her husband. And Elizabeth brings together deep subconscious work and real life experience, which I think you always get from living, life to the full. This helps people to create clarity, confidence, and meaningful changes too. Now, the exciting thing is, and one of the reasons I wanted to get her onto the podcast, is she's about to launch her own signature program. And we can talk more about that, from a single and to married, and is basically inspiring her own decisions to give herself a year to meet her husband, which she did. Very romantic. I want to know all about that. So now she's happily married and passionate about helping others to navigate dating and relationships with, that intention and ease and self-trust that many of us lack. So we're going to talk at the end about how you can contact her, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be quite inspirational. So hello, welcome to Zen Footsteps.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure. Right, let's go right to the very top of that. RTT, what is it? What does it stand for?
It stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy.
Okay.
It's a hybrid of NLP, CBT, psychotherapy, and it's carried out under hypnosis because a lot of people's issues are buried deep internally, and people are often not aware of why they have a habit, of where the problem comes from. So we put them into a nice relaxing trance. It's not scary at all, and we ask the mind, because the mind is so powerful and so clever, it knows exactly where it needs to go. So we ask them to take us to the root of the issue.
So a lot of people ask me, because I do hypnosis as well as a lot of people ask me about this, and as soon as you say you do hypnosis, especially if at a party, they kind of go like this and they don't look at your eyes because they think we've got some superpower. So instead of me explaining it, can you explain a little bit about hypnosis? What is it? Because the idea as well, one of the questions always people say to me is, can everybody be hypnotized? And I'd like to know your kind of view on that.
Okay, so can everyone be hypnotized? I'm going to say yes, on some level. Some people go deeper than others. And I've worked with some clients. I don't know how to put this. I've worked with a lady who came to me for a fear of public speaking, and it went back to from when in her country, she got an answer wrong. She was whipped. So that gave her the fear of talking in public, which she couldn't quite remember, but we went back to in the subconscious. But she also had a fear of keeping her eyes closed. So she opened her eyes every 5 or 10 minutes, which was fine. And I carried on that way because that's what she was comfortable with. And she was so empowered by our session, having never spoken before in a group, even at school. When she took her children to school, she couldn't talk to the other mums because she just couldn't talk with many people around. One-on-one, she was fine. And she was so empowered that after the session, she went to her children's school and she held a group meeting. And she
Wow.
didn't even have her eyes closed. So there is a level, it's just what I call it is closing down the conscious mind and opening up the subconscious mind, because it's our conscious thinking that's got us where we are today. So we just want to go underneath that layer and
Yeah,
access.
we sabotage a lot, don't we? I often, when people ask me about hypnosis, one of the things I talk about is that I say when you drive a car from A to B in a regular journey, and you think, how did I get here? And you go into
Mhm.
that daydreaming state. I said, basically, it's like that. We're sustaining that, but you didn't
Yes.
knock somebody over at the crossing. You didn't even see the horse that was passing or stuff like that. And I also think about subliminal hypnosis, where we primarily aimed at women. I have to say, before the show started, we're talking about this, but you walk up the high street, St. Tunbridge Wells, where we're based, and you will have so many things shown to you by this makeup, by these shoes. Very few for men, but that's a form for me of hypnosis.
Mm.
And I would say that for me, the big thing with the hypnosis is that you're right, everyone can be hypnotized, but if they consent to being hypnotized, that's the thing. And who comes to
Oh,
see
yeah.
you?
Yeah, yeah. People have to want to do it. There's a story that Marissa Peer tells me about a man that came to her for hypnosis for drinking. And he had just walked into the room and sat down, and she was having a conversation with him, asking him his name and about the problem. And then he said, "Oh no, you've worked. I'm never going to drink again." And she hadn't even started. And it worked, but she didn't have the heart to tell him that she hadn't done it yet. And so it is belief that actually caused the non-drinking. So if you're committed to being reprogrammed or losing your limitations
Mm.
and you believe it's going to work, because we are just guides and it all starts with you. You're the ones that do the work. We just guide the subconscious, ask for it to release, and you do everything. It is your belief.
It's
Yeah.
pretty powerful. I had a guy come to me and he smoked. And he was very, very kind of left brain. And when I explained to him about hypnosis and stopping smoking, and he booked in to see me, and I explained about what was addictive in cigarettes was sugar, not the nicotine.
Wow, I didn't
And
do that.
yeah, there's a teaspoon and a half of sugar in a pack of cigarettes. So what you get is you get that sugar rush. But
Mm.
also what then happens is, guess what happens when you stop smoking? Everybody says, oh, I put weight on. Well, that's because all of a sudden, guess what? You're craving the sugar. So what I do with people is I get them to, first of all, is to have a carrot. If you smoke 10 cigarettes, have one carrot, and because there's sugar in the carrot, and just do that. But what was interesting, his scientific mind was, oh no, that can't be true, and the sugar would, burn off when the heat of the cigarette, blah blah blah. So I said to him, look, you're not ready, because he was challenging me on everything I did, and I
Mhm.
said, I can help you when you're ready. And he
Yeah.
and he said, oh, I should pay you. I've wasted time. I said, no, no, it's fine. Anyway, and of course he came back and we did the hypnosis, so he came back, but then within a few seconds, once I started, he started crying. Like, this is a big burly man. And so basically it was nothing to do with the cigarettes.
Hmm.
It was the underlying emotional, what was going on. The cigarettes was just a substitute, you know what I mean? But he was allowing himself to come out of his left brain and be more right brain creative and exposed. So is this something that do you get a lot of clients that still surprise you to this day?
Well, going back to what you're saying, the problem is never the problem, which is why we go underneath. So people will come to me for smoking or drug addiction or any other addictions, but it's never about the addiction. It's about what is that addiction doing for you? What is it giving you? But I won't know, and often the client doesn't know either. They're just stumped. So I just ask the mind. It works for everybody the same way. Take me back to the root cause of the smoking. What's it doing for you? Is it protecting you? Is it prioritizing you? Oftentimes, it reminds them of a really happy time in their life. Friendships. It takes them back, and that's what it does. And sometimes it's trying to fill a need and the comfort.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I talk a lot about, for example, back when I was a kid, people used to smoke behind the bike shed at school,
Mm.
right? And so, of course, you have commonality, friendships that develop. And so, of course, when you go into a stressful situation, your subconscious mind is designed to protect you. So, guess what it's going to do? It's going to fire up that good feeling, which
Mhm.
is associated with smoking. But making the subconscious understand, as you know, that that's actually not appropriate anymore. In fact, it's become destructive, you know.
Mm.
And I find with a lot of people that I hypnotize, they're quite surprised actually at how powerful it is, because they honestly do think I've got some kind of Svengali kind of power over them, and I always say, to make a joke, I said, I'm not going to turn you into a dark call, going to make you quack. So tell me about, so with RTT, can you talk me through like what a typical session looks like?
A typical session, mine personally, because everyone
Yeah,
does,
the way that you do it. Yeah.
yeah, is about 2.5 to 3 hours long. And what I do is I get very, very clear on the problem. And then once we decide what the problem is together, then I look at their childhood and their parents' relationship and how they felt growing up, and any siblings, if it's a problem just for them or is it like a family-wide problem, to have a look at that. And then we get, this is the most important part, we get very, very clear on what they want. Because a lot of people know what they don't want. They know they don't want to be stressed or they don't want to be overweight, but they don't know what having what they want looks like. So if they're saying, I don't want to be unhealthy, or I don't want to be stressed, for example, all the brain hears is stressed. So it's a direct mental command to the mind. It goes, okay, we must be stressing, there must be a problem. But then I say to them, what if we took you off this little island where stress lives and then walked you over the bridge to a new island where there is no stress and you're having, living your best life? What's here? How do you feel? And then they're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. They've been so built up on what they don't want, that neural pathway of what they don't want has grown like a cord. So then now their thinking just flips to what they don't want automatically. So if you start focusing on what you do want, I want to feel calm, I want to be relaxed, I want to know I can handle all situations, then that neural pathway, the more you think it, will then be the cord, will then thicken and be strong like a rope. And this one will weaken. So that's what we do. We try to refocus them on telling their mind, direct mental command of what it is that they do want. Because even if the mind says, well, okay, you don't want to be stressed, but I don't know what it is you want. I don't know what that looks like. So you do have to tell your mind exactly what that looks like. Your mind is your master. You tell it and it just does, or your servant, sorry. You tell it and it just does. You are the master, whatever you want to happen. We are more in control than we think.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
was going to say, it's interesting to see the manifestation, like the book The Secret, Celestine Prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in fact, I would go so far as to say that the positive of AI is that we're going to have more free time, and that more free time hopefully will mean we'll start to get into more spiritual practices and developing the mind. And that's the saving grace of AI, if you want, because people always talk about negative of AI, but I think it's like anything, it's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a positive way to use it. So where did you learn? What was your training? How did that all come about? What's your story? Did you just fall into it, or was there a story behind this?
No, well, first of all, I come from a long line of healers. So generationally, we had a chapel in Charlton, which sadly, when the wars, this was a long time ago, and then the wars started, and I'm not quite sure what happened, because it wasn't like my mum and dad, it was the generation before that, and it just kind of stopped. So I heard all these stories that we were healers, and I don't have much information, but that was enough to, and I feel like it's in my blood, and I've always feel like I've been guided, that I should be doing something. But I went on my journey and I was always pulled back to helping people. And I got my cafe, which I always wanted from the age of 4. I used to just pretend I had a cafe and make little meals and feed my dog, and she was my customer. I know it's a bit weird, but but
Quite normal.
yeah. So, and then I just knew I wanted it. I knew what it was called, and yeah, and it happened eventually. Yeah, I drew that into me, and yeah, I got the cafe, and people just used to come in and ask me for advice. It was like they'd come in and be like, I'm pregnant, should I have this baby? And I'd be like, I don't know, do you want the baby? And
Do you want a donut or do you want a baby?
yeah, and other people used to come in and be like, is this a therapy cafe? It feels like it's a therapy cafe. So people would just come in and they'd be like, oh, thank you, you saved my life with this. And I think it was just a really calm, lovely cafe. But, you know, new mothers came
Mm.
and they shared all their stories, and it was just really nice. And I just knew that that was my next step. But during having this cafe for 13 years, it got really busy, it was successful, and it all overwhelmed me. I was doing it on my own. I was having relationship problems, people had died, and I just had a bit of a breakdown. Sorry.
It's all right.
And that's when, sorry, and that's when I went, my friend suggested I got into
Yeah.
see a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
So yes, and then I had a really good, I started, because I wasn't sleeping, I had insomnia. And yeah, and I started to feel better. And I thought, oh, I'm really interested in this. So I trained as a hypnotherapist, and I started doing it on my customers. But I felt
Did you find
that,
that your profits and your takings went up when you did that? You will have that extra bacon
I know
sandwich,
that's
and
what
you do not know why.
that's what my husband said. He said I hypnotized him into marrying me.
I
But
will not sign a prenup. Okay, darling.
yeah, because he said he wasn't going to get married, but he did.
Oh,
So.
bless him. Bless his cotton socks. So what happened then? Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Go on. Yeah.
So yeah, I became a clinical hypnotherapist,
Yeah.
and I just did it because I enjoyed it. I wasn't charging people, I was just doing it. But I realized I wasn't secure with people's trauma. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do if it came up because I was finding that things were coming up that I wasn't sure that I could handle, and I didn't want to make people feel worse if they came with me with this, you know, traumatic experience. And then I got into, I found Marissa Peer and I was reading all her books and, you know, looking at all her work and her fabulous things that she does. And then she started teaching clients. And I was like, wow, that's what I need to do because I really like the way she moves people smoothly through the trauma and into
Mm.
a great outcome. That's what made me feel secure teaching people. I'd be happy doing that. And so I trained with her and it's been amazing.
It's a really good way to do it. I work with counselors,
Hmm.
some really lovely counselors. And what often is something in counseling, something so deep that the person can't kind of get it to the surface. And I think also as well, I really know what my limitations are. So
Mm,
I think it's really important in any therapy, you should know what your limitations are. You know, you should
yes.
watch the ego, as they say. And I
Hmm.
think what happens, so sometimes something will come up in hypnosis that was buried, and then I'll send them back to the counselor
Mm,
and then they'll work through on that because things I don't get involved in. I don't do anything in relation to alcohol, for example,
mm,
because I'm not there to give the aftercare when they're going through what's called the DT, you know, the shakes and
mm,
stuff, and so I can't be there for that. You know, so anything which is an addictive drug, I mean, you know, cocaine, marijuana, that's fine. I'll work with that kind of stuff. But for me personally, I think it's really important with any hypnotherapist to know what you can, you know, what you can do and you're comfortable doing, you know, because I think that counseling definitely is more long term, whereas I look at my hypnosis as relatively short term. Do you know what I mean? It's just naming thing. But something else you said there that was which is quite emotional, as I could see you could feel it, which is the whole term about breakdown. And I myself had a breakdown. I think that if you meet somebody at 50 and they haven't had a breakdown, don't trust them, basically. Um, you know, so but I learned through counseling the
mhm,
term it a breakthrough.
mm.
And I really like that whole concept of a breakthrough because society as a whole, when we have a breakdown, there's a judgment with it. But when you have a breakthrough, there
Ah,
isn't. And I would say karmically, almost anything that you've gone through makes you a therapist. They call it the wounded healer. I don't think you can personally, this is just my personal opinion, be a fantastic healer unless you've gone through that because it gives you an empathy and an understanding. And none of us are perfect. We make mistakes, right? You know,
mhm,
we all make mistakes. And I think that what makes you good at what you do is you went through that. And
mm,
I think, you know, you need to validate yourself a little bit for, you know, you're
mm.
here, right? But I think it's pretty incredible. And I think that one day somebody's going to come in and see you and they're going to have gone through what you've gone through and you're going to be able to say, hey, look, I did this. I went through this. And look,
Mhm,
I'm still here. I'm still standing. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
And I'm not English, so I'm emotional. So, you know, the Brits are very stiff upper lip, right, type stuff. But I think it's changing. I'm seeing that now. I'm seeing more and more clients that are starting to question things and say, hey, look, I think I've got a problem. Whereas in America, everyone's got a therapist, right?
Mhm.
So tell me about Marissa, by the way, because I'm ignorant of this. So tell me a little bit about your journey with her. How did you meet her? How does she work? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I knew that she was starting teaching people. She wasn't cheap. And I was ready to move on from the cafe. So I put it up for sale just before COVID, which was good timing because it wouldn't sell. And my cafe was in a park, and it meant that it was a good space for my clients or my customers
Mm.
to come. And it was nice to be of service, to give them somewhere to go during those years. And it was busy because we had a big open space. And then the good timing was I sold after COVID. So I know COVID was quite bad for a lot of people, but it was nice to have them all coming with their problems of COVID and helping them through COVID. So that was nice. I felt like I was a service, and I also they my customers loved hearing all my bad dating stories. So yeah.
You listen, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to meet your prince, right? And my wife is very much my soulmate, my queen, whatever you want to call it. I absolutely adore her and love her. But she always says to me that I was practicing and everybody else, to get good before I met her. So
Ah,
and I don't think there's anything as a bad relationship. I think there's learning. You know
they're
what I mean?
mirrors.
100%, 100%. And every relationship I've had, I've definitely had to reflectively put my hands up and take responsibility for my actions because that's part of being a grown up, right? Saying, okay,
Mhm.
what did I do in this relationship? Because I can go, oh, I've had bad relationships, but yeah, hold on. If I've had more than one bad relationship, there's a part that I've played. And I think that's very important that we own that,
Oh
and
yes.
be able to do that and to communicate and to say, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
and I think one of the important things too in relationships is, and I've worked with patients like this, is teaching them how to argue. It's very important. So, very much about don't use you. So if I'm arguing with you, I wouldn't say you did this and I felt like that. That's blame. And so you're going to be defensive. So I very much say when this happened, I felt like this, and then the other person does it. And that's really useful way to do it because you hear what the person felt as opposed to you. Because I've seen it when couples come to me and the first thing they'll sit there and they go, yeah, but you, and then they go, oh yeah, but you. So you know what I mean? So it's fascinating. So you sold the calf, but I feel
Yes.
there's a book in there, by the way. Um,
Yeah. So I did write a book. Yes.
did you? I'm not surprised, but you're not going to write it. I'm going to write it because I'm ticking away already in my head. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so you sold the calf, and had you heard about Marissa at this point or not?
Yes, I've read all of her books, and
So I don't know Marissa. I mean, I really honestly don't. So I'm fascinated. Tell me
oh,
about her. So who is she? What's her story?
she's a famous hypnotherapist.
Okay,
And yeah, and where you were saying that you don't work with some people,
yeah,
I do. So
yeah.
I with Marissa's mythology, people who do counselling refer their clients to me to take them to the trauma because they don't know if they don't know what it is and they can't get there. So
Yeah.
I'm quite prepared and I'm happy when we go to the trauma. I've worked with some horrific things that you can't believe that people have gone through. And when that comes up, I'm pleased because I know that I can help. Because I had a client the other day and she came to me for something, I think it was a weight issue, which is all food or weight related issues are, emotional issues.
Of
And we went
course.
straight, as soon as like 5 minutes in, she went straight to something extremely traumatic. And I was like, oh my God, I was a bit surprised we'd gone straight away. But I was pleased because I thought, oh my God, wasn't expecting that, but I know I'm prepared. I know I see my job as taking away guilt and shame. And that's really important because people carry that around and it affects them. And if you can take that away from somebody, then that's a really good thing to do.
Do you ever get situations where you bring stuff up, you bring trauma up, and then someone will get upset with you or blame you because you've brought the trauma up? I mean, it's projection, as you know, but do you ever get that?
No,
Wow. Okay.
I have never had that because it's a long session. You don't just cut people off in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get them through, and you don't stay there for a long time. It's just take me to it, feel the emotion. You know that was nothing to do with you. Really, you quickly turn it around
Yeah.
to so they're safe. But I always say you're reviewing it. So you're
Okay.
not reliving, you're just reviewing it from an adult perspective. You're perfectly safe. So that I build that up beforehand. And yeah, so and then I empower them immediately. What if that happened to you now, what would you do? You're an adult, give them the power. And then we kind of change the memory in a way. I can't really put unless I'm in it,
Hmm.
I can guide them through it. But we want to then I
We
put them in a safe space and we
Yeah,
move
because
away.
I think when I was training, we called it reframing.
Yeah, reframe. Yeah,
You
reframe
you
it.
you you reframe like sometimes I might get them to. I mean, you're familiar with this, but I might get them to look at a black and white screen in their minds, and then slowly I'll get like when you see those old films where you get a burn in the screen, the film starts coming
Oh,
up,
yes,
and then
yes.
I'll get that to go colorful, so that create
Yes.
overlay to create the new picture and stuff like
Mhm.
like that, and it is empowering. It's just that the reason I brought up the question was only because I had once, and it's only ever happened to me once, but I had somebody once was upset because I made them well, and they got so that was interesting.
Yeah, I did have one client, I don't know if I could say this. She came to me for overeating,
Hmm.
and she did. Yeah, there's one client, and she did get upset because I said that she felt slimmer, and I said, oh, imagine you're in the mirror and you feel a bit slimmer, and she didn't like that. I,
Yeah, but again, that's as a therapist, people forget that we're sensitive, and they think that somehow we've got some kind of thick skin, but because I've done the same. I'll say, imagine now there's this beautiful dress you've got hung up, and how would you like to be, all this kind of stuff. And I think you're right. And often I find if that client continues to work with you later on, they'll go, "Oh, by the way, when I said that, I didn't mean it," or whatever. But it's very hard because you're there to ultimately the trauma is going to come out and it can project onto you. That's very,
yes, it was
you know,
angled the underlying issue, but I'm
yeah.
now very careful because you do learn as you go to say to people, do you want to feel slimmer? I just, it's just check beforehand what it is they want before you go in. Like always make sure you understand what it is they want and you don't give them something that they don't want.
Yeah, I find that with fibromyalgia because I work chemically as a nutritionist, physically as a
Mhm.
chiropractor, and emotionally hypnosis. And depending on what I think is the underlying base of the pyramid needs to be addressed, obviously.
Mhm.
But I do find with some people that I'll say, well, do you want to be well? And they go, well, of course I want to be well. And I go, okay, well, that means no benefits,
Ah.
no more benefits, no more going to this club. Do you really want to be, what is you being unhealthy and unwell serving? Is this somewhat how it's
Mm.
serving you? Maybe when you were a child and you were unwell, that was the only time your mother gave you attention.
Hmm.
It's so complicated. It's such a complicated thing, and it's so nice as well to see that there are both an option for men and women to be doing this work as well, I
Hmm.
think. I think it's my wife and I were talking about this the other day, and I was saying if I ever went to a doctor and I needed to have an intimate exam or something like that, ironically enough, I'd prefer a woman to do it. But when women ask to have an intimate exam, they will prefer a woman to do it. And it's really interesting to see that dynamic. Whether you're a body worker, whether you're more acceptable as a woman. I mean, think about how many women do, say, therapy like massage. It
Mm.
primarily is women. You don't get very many men who do it. And so I think it's a reflection on our society, or stereotypes maybe. I don't know. So we went from okay, so we've sold the calf.
Yes.
You've got involved with Marissa and you've decided to do that.
Hmm.
Was there? I mean, do you have Irish heritage in you or anything like that?
This is going to be really weird. Now you've asked. My nan was sold at birth on my
Ah,
mum's side many, many years ago. So that would be like 130 years ago. I think people
wow.
did things in those days.
Yeah, they did.
And yeah, the rumor has it, yes, we do have Irish, but we can't
Okay.
prove it. And well, I could go on a DNA.
Ancestry
Yeah,
or
but I haven't done it yet. But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah,
There's other, by the way, there's other DNA
yeah.
available, not just ancestry.
No, I haven't done that yet.
Because that no, but just I find it fascinating. I think that most I've come across a lot of healers, and they have they've got some sort of Celtic background.
Yes, that's the rumor.
Yeah, I would make sense if you know that happens. So you then did you reach out to her? Did you run courses? How did you find out about her then?
She just started training people, and then I applied, and
Oh,
that was that. I loved it, and I got busy immediately. I was really shocked. Yeah, so I was in at the deep end, so I didn't have time to worry about whether, how it was going to go. And yeah, I was booked, and yeah.
fascinating. I went to some hippie festival when I was younger, and they had a tent called a healing tent. And
Mhm.
basically, they had a hat there called an honesty hat. You know, very hippie. It had to be a hat, didn't it? And what they did was that people gave money according to what they thought it was worth or they could afford.
Oh yes.
But they actually made more money if you collectively put it all together than they have charged. It's an interesting thing, this concept we have about healing, because what you do back in the day, people probably would have, poo-pooed or, you know what I mean? And now it's very mainstream, I think, more and more.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing that with my course. But going back to my ancestry, the healing side was on my dad's side, but the Irish would be on my mum's side.
Okay. So there's quite a mix there within that.
Yes.
That you got both. So tell me about the course because I'm fascinated about this. So you and I obviously we talked about this before, but I want our listeners to know about this.
Mhm.
So what's your idea for the course? How do you want to run it? What's it going to offer? How long is it going to be?
Oh, my course.
Yes,
Yeah.
your course.
The reason I wanted to do a course for a long time, and recently I kept having these clients with the same problem over and over again, and I was like, well, this must be the course that I'm going to do. So I have a lot of high-end clients, models, stylists, and they just don't seem to be able to have a relationship. And also, a lot of women have this problem, but it feels like a lot of people are not safe being their authentic self. They have an image, and maybe them as themselves is not enough. Just being naturally them with all their, human stuff. And so they don't let people in, because to have a good relationship really is to meet on a heart level. People know how you make them feel, but if you're too busy protecting yourself with an image, I have to be this person on TikTok. I can't. Who does that person want me to be? I'm sophisticated. No, you put on a little bit of an act. With your friends, you're your goofy, silly self, and everyone loves you for who you are. But then you go on a date and you're like, oh my God, I have to be perfect. They want someone like this, so they don't. Me myself, I did the same thing, and it makes you kind of emotionally unavailable a little bit. So if you're what I say is what I learned about myself is I was emotionally unavailable, which was why I kept having the same relationships with emotionally unavailable people, because I wasn't relaxed or safe to be my authentic self, because I felt like I wasn't enough. I always felt like I had to be a certain way or a certain type. But really, after I learned that I was the person that was always in all these relationships, that I was reading A Course of Miracles, and that was when I found out, and I was like, oh my God, it's me. I'm the problem.
Isn't that the way it is though? Isn't
Yeah,
that the way it is? Because we project our blame externally because it's easy to blame others and
yeah,
to instead of look at our own part that we played in something. It's always somebody else's fault, right?
yes,
Because that's easy.
yeah, yeah, it's his fault. And that's what I talk to people about: outsourcing. You can't outsource anything. It all comes from the inside. As soon as you start to love yourself, then everyone will love you back. But
Agree.
it does. Love starts with you. And I can't say this enough,
Mm.
and it's just empowering yourself. And one thing I say on the dates, and what I say to myself all the time, when you're on a date and you're like, I hope he likes me, I hope he likes me. Well, I don't know, it's me anyway.
Mm.
But really, do you like them? Are they good enough for you? It's your job to observe. You've got to spend your life with this person,
Sure.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Uh, is that the person that you want?
Yeah.
You're the prize. You're the prize. They have to choose you, not were they going to choose me? I was coming from a real victim weak state. And as soon as I shifted my mindset, the whole dating experience became magic.
And is this primarily women you're working with? Do you find this is more women? Because
No,
I have, oh really? That surprises me. So do you get an equality of both men and women with this?
I work with a lot of men.
Wow.
I'd say equal. And I love working with men because this makes me laugh. I put an advert out in Weatherspoons and I had a lot.
We love you, Weatherspoons. You're great.
It was just on my road. I thought I'd put it in, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had a
yeah.
lot of men with anger issues,
Yeah.
and it came down to school, bullying,
Hmm.
sports day, and it was amazing. And there was one client I had, he really lost it, and I was like, I was backing out the door, I was so frightened. I thought it was like I was really scared. I was on my own, and then I came in, he was sobbing, and after because I normally have 3 follow-up calls, and I said, should I book you in for a follow-up call? And he was like, no, I'm good. I'm great. I can't believe that affected my whole life, this
Wow.
one incident.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
It's
but it
it's
had to come out because it's a trapped emotion. That anger had to come out.
Yeah, and it's got to come out appropriately, and that's the problem. Is that often with men we consider we're told that anger is a negative. You know, we see it as violence. But I always say to people, have you ever been on a? I went on a march in London once, and I was angry but empowered anger. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't
Mm,
aggressive anger. You know, anger is a better emotion than being down and curled up in a ball. It's movement. At least it's movement. It's empowering. It's just
mm,
taking and channeling the anger to be a positive anger. Do you know what I mean? You can, I think what a lot of men do as well, because I've done it myself, is to deny you're angry. And of course, that the body keeps the score, it internalizes, and then you get ill, right? And that's the thing. And I also think that the reason I asked you is that primarily women you see is because statistically there is 3 women for one man.
mm,
And so what that's done, I've noticed within the dating world, for example, that you will get a guy that he'll have one of these apps, swipe left, right, whatever you do, and he's essentially looking for to hook up with a woman, right? And he'll get in there and he'll start chatting up. And if he's not interested, like ordering a pizza, he just and he swipes the other way. And because there are 3 women to one man, he knows at some point the woman's going to go, yeah, that's fine, you know. And I think that's kind of sad, really. And then you've also got women who are so they get married, they're beautiful, they get pregnant, they're tired, they're worn out, they've gone out into the workplace, and they're still doing the laundry, and they're still doing all the other things that women did before. That they got that ability to go out into work, and now they're having to compete for other younger women coming up behind them and
mm.
taking their men away. And I always used to think that there was this loyalty amongst sisterhood and I'm surprised. I see, to some degree, I see that isn't the case. I thought a ring on your finger meant something. You know, it was like a sign to women saying, "Hey, listen, I'm taken. You know,
Mm.
back off." You know.
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah. I've seen that in my circles where that doesn't happen, and I'm like really shocked by some people's behaviour. However, that other women are taking your man and looking for younger women is a belief. And it's a very limiting belief because my husband's younger than me. And I believe if you value yourself highly enough and you know what you want and make it very clear and you're confident, which is what I do in the program, you don't have to worry about things like that.
I agree. I agree. I think I would say when I met my wife, one of the things that's true is that until I met my wife, I didn't really know what true commitment or love was. You know, and for me, one of the things about I'd say to any woman or man listening to this podcast, if you're in a relationship and it's truly born out of love and mutual respect, you go to work and you don't have to think about your relationship because
Mm,
it's secure. You know it. You don't even have to question it. You know, and I think it's really important in a relationship too that if you as a woman have a dream or a man have a dream, is that your partner will support you in that.
mm,
You know, they will want you to thrive. I see too many relationships where the man or the woman says, "No, no, I don't want you doing that," or "Do you really want to do that?" It's like you kind of shouldn't do that because the path together should be together, not apart.
yes.
And I think that that's where a lot of the stress with clients I see is
Hmm.
they just feel they've just done that, you know?
That's true, but that also comes down to them not trusting themselves and not feeling safe to trust their decisions.
Yeah.
And once you have that utter belief in yourself, you'll change other people around you. They'll just fall into that energy,
Hmm.
and you won't be second guessing yourself. You'll be
It's
like,
true.
this is what's happening. This is who I am. And you'll be so, like Abraham Hicks says, on the high flying disc, but you'll be so in that vibration that people will just let you do, and they'll believe in you to do what you want. So yeah. So if you make a choice, so decision is Latin for to cut off from, I
Yeah.
think.
To
You make,
incise. Yeah.
yeah, so you make a choice, you become this person, and
Yeah.
nothing's going to stop you. And people either fall away or they rise with you.
Yeah, it's true. I say to my clients, especially with smoking clients, I said, look, decision comes from to incise, to cut off. We're here today to make the decision. You're going to stop smoking. That means you're not going to think about it, not going to maybe do it. You're either going to do it or you're not. And I said that the way I work is if you want to do it, I'm here. But if you don't, that's fine. But come back when you're ready. Because I think that the danger with any therapy is to give your power to the therapist. You've been giving your power to other people. You come to the therapist
Yes.
and you keep doing that. I'm not interested in you giving me power. Even as a chiropractor, I'll say to people, my job is to make you not need me.
Mm.
And they find that very strange. They find what you mean I don't need to keep coming back every week. I go, no.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
why I
why,
like, yeah, that's why I do rapid transformational therapy, because I don't, if people keep coming back, I do have one client I've had for 3 years, but she's gone from not leaving the house to now having a job. So
wow.
yeah, that was huge. And I did feel at some point that she was relying on me, and I kept saying, so I was spacing it out longer and longer. And yeah, so I don't want people to rely on me. I mean, I want repeat customers. I have one client, she come to me for um relationship. Oh, 90% of my clients meet their partner the next day.
You do realize that
Unbelievable.
you do realize that people are listening to this. They're not going to be interested in anything else except getting a hold of you as the matchmaker, the Jewish matchmaker, right?
Yes,
Matchmaker,
yes,
matchmaker. Listen,
yes.
I've got so many female friends that would be, please, can I have a number?
Oh yeah, you must. It's brilliant. And then only because I lived it myself. But anyway, I
Yeah,
got her a boyfriend. She wanted a relationship. So
great.
fine. The next one was she wanted to run one of those wild marathons, like 100 mile in South Africa.
Yeah, okay.
That one, do you know
Yeah,
that one?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so she wanted to do that, and she had a few issues, health issues. So we had to look into what that was doing, because it's the three P's. Is it prioritizing you, protecting you, or in some instances, women unfortunately punishing you? So we look at what it's doing, why. So we did that, and she did it in the exact time that she wanted, and she's just come back to me now because she wants a new job in a new location with a higher salary.
Perfect.
So people do come, but I don't want people coming for the same.
Yeah, I don't mind them coming back in the sense that we've all got a spine, right? We're all going to hurt our back. We're all going to have mind issues. We're all going to have, yeah, that's life, right? But I think it's more kind of, I don't want them constantly, you know, I don't want to become part of the problem that they're really trying to sort in the first place, which
Yes.
is, I'm not interested in being someone's parent, you know. I've got my own kids, you know what I mean? So from that. So, okay, so we've gone Kath, we've gone Marissa, and then what was the next part of the journey?
The calf, Marissa,
And then you started in practice, and
started
then
practice. Yeah, now launching I had to stop for a while because my mum got terminally ill. And now just launching my program.
so tell me, let's go a little bit about the program because I want people to know. So, how long does it take? Have you kind of got to that? How many kind of are you gonna run it as an online course? It's like a purchase thing where you can buy it online and
Um, at the moment, I quite like to do the live modules with them.
okay,
So we can do question and answers. So it's 8 modules where I tell people what I think they need from base my history of what I know, of what I went through, but also allowing them space to give me questions and questions so I can answer them as they go, which is unique to them. And on the last module will be a question and answer session purely. So I answer all the questions. But while we're going through it, um, they can be on their journey. So they can be like, oh, I've got a man who's texting me, and should I text back? No, because your no answer's your answer. Or just how to reframe it from an empowered point of view. But also talking of online dating, this is where I think I'm going to be quite unique in my field, and this is where my quote comes in: I was done with online dating. It was exhausting. It was tiring. It was like rogues gallery, flicking through rogues gallery. It was like, not again. It was just so disheartening. And I was like, the definition of madness or insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm on these dates over and over again. I'm not getting anywhere apart from tired and bored, and I'm not growing my career because I'm putting all the energy in the wrong place. I'm just going to come offline because there are men in the world. There's a man in front of you everywhere you are. There's one in the supermarket. There's one walking down the street.
Those pesky little men, they just get everywhere. It's like
I
flies.
know, right? There's so many of them, and you only need one.
It's
You need
true.
one. Wherever you are, at a festival, at the pub,
Yeah.
at your old people's home, there's someone
Yeah.
visiting their nan. There's someone. Why limit yourself to
Hmm.
these few people? I just call it self-harm. I didn't like it. But I mean, good. I know a lot of people that have, and I'm happy to help with your journey. But I decided I took a flirting course and I learned how to flirt.
Well done.
And I honestly, I was clearing up. I had men follow me off trains. I mean, in not in a scary way, because I was the only one doing it. And people are not connecting in the real world. And people really, really want that. And that's what I kind of want to teach people. They're out and they see someone they like. Okay, we can all talk to someone that we don't really fancy. That's easy. But can we talk to someone that we do like? Because I used to be like, I can talk to that person, but that guy's gorgeous. And I'll be like, sad to say something really stupid. Like, I think I even said to one man in the pub, oh, that's a nice fireplace. You know, my friend was laughing. We're like, what? Because in my on this course, it was like you have to have something, and that was we did actually have a really nice chat, and he did ask my number. So it doesn't really matter what you say, but I think it's probably a good idea to, you know.
I also think as well that I remember when I was younger and I was on the dating scene and people would say to me, "Oh, that person's really into you," and I go, "Really?" I
Mm.
I had no idea because I was just being friendly. I was just chatting, all of that. And I think because I grew up with I grew up with a single mom and five sisters, so I've got a brother as well. But because I grew up in that female environment, I was used to women and just talking to women. So
Mm.
I didn't see the signs or the cues or anything else like that. And I do think it's very important that we learn to understand that how men and women operate. I mean, one of the things I always laugh at is my wife does it, and before, we were married and had girlfriends, they do it as well. When a woman is trying on clothes, for example, what she'll always do, and I just laugh at it now, we have a little bit of a giggle, my wife and I, about it, but they'll bend one leg
Oh.
when they look in the mirror. So what they do is they'll put one leg
Oh.
forward, they have the back leg straight, one leg forward, and they do this sort of like this, and it's fascinating to see, and eye contact and all of those
Got
kind
the
of things.
mirror face.
Yeah, but the body language is for you and I as therapists, it's very interesting to see body language
Hmm.
and to see subconsciously what someone's showing to you. Most of my clients don't breathe properly. I had a guest on here, and she's a breath worker, and we
Hmm.
talked about this. And most people that I see when they come into me, if they're stressed, they chest breathe,
Hmm.
100%. And it's that whole kind of being observant about what people are doing, and that fascinates me. So I think with you, yeah, I can see you doing this matchmaking and dating and do you have an instinct for it in the sense of your healing ancestry? Do you have an instinct? Do you think, oh, two people will get on?
Well, no, probably not.
You're honest, that's for sure.
But it's what I do is I allow people to carry themselves better
Right.
and to be brave, because if they like
Mm.
someone, they don't have to say, "Oh, do you want to go on a date?" Because that's probably not a good idea. But they'll be like, there's a really great show on at the cinema that I really fancy, and then let the guy lead, and that's your answer.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just gonna have
it's
the water. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
go for it. Yeah, have a glass. So I had an interesting story. I've got a friend of mine. He was best man at my wedding, and I always looked at his relationship that he has with his wife, and it's that kind of relationship you aspire to.
Hmm.
He's an outrageous flirt, but he has a line. This is very much, I will flirt, but I love my wife. This is the line. I won't cross this line. And I looked at him, and I always admired his relationship, and I thought it was wonderful and everything. I said, what's your secret, And what he said to me was, it was so simple but so profound. And so for men and women listening, this is quite interesting. And he said, I'd gone a date, maybe we'd even have start a relationship, but if I found that there was something that wasn't right in the relationship, he said I'd end it. And he said the reason I did that was because I just realized that small thing that niggled me was going to become a big thing. And if I carried on this relationship out of a sense I had to be in the relationship, I would end up really hurting the person, preventing them from meeting who they should meet, and also preventing me from who I should meet. So when he met his wife, he knew what was right. And I thought that's really interesting because a lot of people would think, oh, you should just get out the first sign of trouble. But actually, I think it's more honest to say to somebody, hey, look, I think we can just be friends, you know? And
Mm.
I think that's more honest. It might be painful for the person to hear, but why drag it out? So,
Yes, well, that's kind of how I work, because you don't want to be in 3-year relationships or 3-month relationships when you know that it's not working. And some people think I do because they feel like they're settling, or they just hope it's going to change, or they like the person, they're good looking, for instance, and or they was really nice on the first date, but now they're not so nice. So what I did, I was very, very clear, because I thought I don't want to waste any more time. I don't have time to waste. I want to meet my husband. I've given myself a year. I can't be just dating people for months. So what I say is, on your first date, that's a tiny snapshot of the rest of your life. They're not going to be any different. So if like, I had one date where he just was mean about his slagged off his ex-wife. And I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone that's going to do that.
agree.
Yeah, and if they're mean, or if they're inconsistent, just look, I was very aware of what I didn't want in the relationship. And if as soon as they did it, and I thought, well, that's not going to be the only time, and if so, but sometimes you can't be on the first date, so you have to give them 1, 2, or 3. And then I say, give them enough rope to hang themselves with. That's what I say. I'm not their mum. I don't want to teach them how to behave. I don't want I've gone past that stage. If they don't know, I'm not interested. I want a well-rounded, high-value man. And I'm now a high-value woman, because I know what I want. I've empowered myself. I've learned that I was the problem. I've learned to be safe in my vulnerability, and I'm the catch. I'm a totally different person than I was the year before. And yeah, so I've forgotten where I was going now.
Don't worry. It's very empowering. I'm just listening to you. I'm agreeing totally with
Yes,
with
so
everything you say.
observe.
Yeah.
Don't say you should have rung me, because they didn't, and that's who they are.
I totally agree. They either ring you or they don't. And if they don't, then that's the wrong person for you. If they don't and that's what you want, then that's the right person for you. I agree. I see this a lot in relationship, this sort of idea that, you've got to compromise. I had a thing before I met my wife, which was I had 5 things I would never compromise on. And I was very strict about those 5 things.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. I find even
What were
simple.
the what were the
So,
five?
okay, so I wanted somebody who had some spiritual belief. Didn't have
Hmm.
to be the same as mine, but I wanted them to have something that was a little bit more than we're just here and we live and we die. Okay,
Hmm.
because that's the essence. The essence of what I believe is I believe that we're souls at a university and we're learning.
Hmm.
And when we graduate from this university, we go on and we take anything we take from this world is love and experience. So I wanted someone at least had that, a modicum of that. I wanted somebody who was looked after their body because I'm in healthcare. So I didn't want somebody who smoked because if you smoke, ideally what's going to happen down the line, there's going to be an illness,
Hmm.
and whether it's cancer or lung issues, but I'm investing my love into you. And if you are purposely, because it's not rocket science that smoking is not good for you, right? So if you're going to smoke and you're going to die, I'm going to be left and I'm going to be hurt, and I'm looking after my heart, so I'm not going to give my love for that. You know what I mean? The other thing, I wanted somebody who was happy in their body,
Hmm.
somebody who was able to say, "This is my body. I like my body." I really struggle with at the time of people shaming their bodies, Women
Mm.
saying, oh, my breasts are too small, my breasts are too big, my this is that, my this is that. It just, for me, because the reality is if you marry someone, they're going to change. Their bodies change. And you need to accept that and stick around just because they change. Women get married and they have babies often, and then the men shame them with, oh, your tummy's not as flat, and the men are standing there with beer bellies looking like they're 9 months pregnant. I think it's really disrespectful. So that was the thing. So I wanted somebody to have all these qualities. I wanted somebody also who was very aware that in terms of nutrition,
Hmm.
that had a respect. Like I eat organic food, my wife eats organic food, things like that. And also I also want somebody who's going to exercise as well, and I don't mean exercise, but out of all of those encompassed within that, one of the most important things for me was that I will go out into National Trust or nature and I look at a sunset, and that sunset will go deep in my soul, and I'll go, wow, look at that. It's like God's painted a new canvas for the day that you'll never ever seen. It's a unique canvas. And I
Oh.
wanted to look at that, and I wanted to, that feeling I had a relationship where I'd say to somebody, wow, look at that light on that leaf. And they go, oh yeah, yeah, that's nice. I go, and I felt deflated. So I wanted somebody who could really
Mm.
deeply in their heart feel the good, the bad, the pain, all those sort of things. You know what I mean? The ups and downs. So yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, those are the things I wanted. And it's not to say that if you don't want any of those things that you're somehow wrong
Mm.
or shamed. It's just that's what I wanted. You know.
Yes. And funny enough, I was a social smoker.
Right.
So, and my husband said to me, no, I will leave you if you smoke. And that was it. I stopped. The end.
Yeah.
Never
And
even
there's
wanted one again.
and there's good reason. It's I don't think it's someone controlling someone. It's just that this is what I want, and this
But
is
I
what I
wanted
don't
to
want.
stop.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yes, I really, really did. I wasn't a lot. It was like once a month, just one with a glass of
Yeah.
wine, 'cause that's what I did when I was younger. And yeah, but that's enough to stop.
It's
And
funny.
also,
I was going to say it's funny because in hypnosis, that's one of the things I talk about is breaking the connections between smoking. So wine, smoking, friends, smoking. They're the connections, right?
mhm. And going back to my husband, I'm more of a sunset person than the leaf, but my husband wasn't, but he would do it for me. Now he brings me up and goes, oh, the lovely sunset. Oh, have you seen the moon? If you stand over there. But he does it because he knows I like it.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, things like, stupid little things like if I put out I'm dishing up the meal. If it's two steaks, I give my wife the bigger one. Um, I would give her the last biscuit, the last this, last. But she does that for me, and I appreciate she does that for me. And our relationship's really good in the sense. The only thing I don't really do is wash because the laundry because I shrink things. I shrunk one of her cashmere tops, and she banned me from ever having anything to do with the washing machine. But apart from that, we've tried this thing recently. Actually, it's quite interesting. It's my wife's idea. It's a great idea. We take it in turns to cook for the whole week.
Oh.
So I've planned out the cooking for the whole week, so she can just completely relax, and it's her turn this week,
Mm.
and it's just really nice.
Well, I am extremely lucky because my husband does all the cooking. In fact, he does most of everything, to be fair.
I'm not going to let my wife listen to this podcast.
I am honestly, I did strike gold. So yeah.
Yeah, well, but that's the point, and it's interesting the way we're talking about our hearts. I can see that we both very much love them,
Mhm.
and this is what I'm hoping with you that people are going to reach out to you now because they're going to want help with these things. Do you find that with the work that you do, that there's an aspect of it that keeps surprising you? That, for example, this relationship side, you never saw that maybe that's you're being pulled in that direction?
Yeah, because I was before my mum got ill. I was going to launch a program with eating issues because I do a lot of bulimia and overeating. I still work with weight loss, even though we've got Ozempic and everything that's coming out, because people still want to stop the habit. Because when they stop the jabs, they revert to the
Yeah.
habit. So I still get people that don't want to go down that route as well. So I get a lot of binge eating. I work a lot with that, and I can clear that up within like one session, sometimes most of the time.
You see,
Uh,
that's the thing. That's the thing I think anybody listening to this will be reaching out to you for, because I agree with you, especially with the weight loss drugs, because it's classic of our society. We're bandaging it constantly.
mhm.
And really it's not the underlying cause, because food is emotional most of the time,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. Because well, after my mum died and looking after her when she was terminally ill, I put on the stone because I was just comfort eating.
Yeah,
And it was just, I couldn't stop. I was just like, trying to fill a gap or something. But and then I had to like heal myself,
yeah.
and now I'm on the journey back. But yeah, it is. It's emotional. And now because I had an opposite when I was younger. I had an eating thing where I didn't eat because it was the only thing I could control. Our house was a bit chaotic. So it's the only thing I could control. And going back to the chaotic, which is why I always attracted chaotic boyfriends. They're always drug addict, really good looking, drug addicts, abusive alcoholics. It was utter chaos. And each person, it was the same relationship, different person.
Mm.
So I was just like, I've got to stop this. And I could have had a lovely husband years ago. It wasn't that I wasn't meeting lovely people. I found that was boring. If they were consistent and rung me when they said they would and treated me nicely, I'd be like, where's the fun in that? Well, I'm not trying to get someone to call me back. I'm not twisting myself up in contortions trying to get someone to like me, to get that little hit. And there's one thing I say to women now is that when you see that lovely person and like the cymbals clang and the angels sing and the earth stops moving, that's your nervous system screaming run. It's woken up to someone that's not going to meet its needs. And they find that when the person is meeting their needs, because they're so used to trying to prove themselves to get love from a parent figure, that when they meet someone that just meets their needs and gives them everything they need, they just don't know what to do with it.
I totally agree. One of the things I find fascinating is even I'll often say I had a conversation with this about with I was talking to my daughters about this, and my sisters and I talk about this as well. My sisters, it's funny, most of my family are in healthcare of one form or another. It's incredible. From one who sort of writes books and tarots to on the far medical side. It's fascinating. But the actual when men need to understand something about women. This is my personal opinion, but love your opinion on it. You're a woman, so I don't want to be mansplaining, as they call it. But when a woman makes love, it's very different to when a man makes love. So when a woman makes love, the actual act of a woman allowing the man into her body is an act of like your arms opening. It's an open gesture. It's
We're
like
receivers.
receivers, and whereas the man is very much, like I'm going to take, And I think that when a woman makes love to a man, and men need to really understand this, is that when a woman makes, sorry, when a man makes love to a woman, women afterwards, there's a connection, a bond is formed
Mhm.
straight away, I think, at that point. And men don't have that. That comes later. That comes through the providing and
Yeah.
the nurturing and the caring. And I've seen this a lot with a lot of the women that I've treated. They fall into it. And I've said this to my children growing up. I said, if you meet someone and it's somebody you really love, don't sleep with that person for a good 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever you want. See if they stick around,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, my take on it is I would say do what you want, but do it with the energy of you don't expect anything back. It's not a transaction.
Yeah,
I find a lot of women be like, I do this, so therefore you got to do that. And then they get disappointed. But if you're like, I'm just going to do it because I want to do it, and then you don't lower the energy in that way, you don't be like become a victim of
sure.
I gave myself and you didn't do the thing, or they start panicking, I've done
Yeah,
the wrong thing, and then they start backtracking or going to what I call crazy town.
yeah.
I've been to crazy town more times than I need to. And but it is a good idea just to observe them first. And also another thing is once you sleep with them straight away, they stop taking you out for dinners. So and I like going out for dinner. So so I like they're gonna have to I want to be taken because once that
Mm.
stops, then you're like it's cozy nights in front of the telly.
Yeah,
So I want to be wooed for a little bit.
yeah, but again, it depends. I mean, I surprised my wife and took her to Paris. I surprised her just last
Yeah.
weekend with the spa weekend. I also think it's about just because you're married or it doesn't mean it stops. I mean, the amount of people that have said to us things like, oh, it's the honeymoon phase or the honeymoon phase. And we're 6 years down the line, they're going, it's the honeymoon phase. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? I think
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's what do
Yeah,
you expect?
there's still room for dinners, and we still go out for dinners. But I mean, initially, it's not going to be one after the
No,
other.
no. No, no, no. You want that. What you want to do is I have my five list. You want your five list of the Savoy, the Ritz, all of that. And after that, if he dumps you, it's great. I've had all these freebies, But that's why
Ah,
women traditionally used to get jewelry back in the day, in the Victorian days, because they
mm,
didn't have any rights or whatever. So if the men did dump them, at least they had a dowry, at least they had rings they could
yes.
exchange in. So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes, I do feel like it's probably best to observe them before you do. But if you in the moment and it happens, don't let it weaken your stance. You're still the prize.
Yes.
Still, I did it myself, and I still kept my energy up. I'm still, it
Yeah.
happened, but you still got to win me over. Doesn't mean to say that we're in a relationship. Don't don't get there before the man.
No, and be subtle about it. My wife will do something sometimes, and I'll just laugh at her. She'll say, she'll be laughing, and like let's say it's a jar that she can't unscrew and unscrew. She goes, "Oh, darling, you're so strong," And
Oh,
I
we
go,
do that.
and I go, "Oh, stop it," because it's like so obvious, right? And then
Yeah,
but the truth of the matter, she's a lecturer at a university, but most of her life she's a paramedic, so she's got very strong arms, so she can undo the job better
yeah.
than I
Every
can.
now
So.
and then I do it. I say to my husband, "Oh, you're the hero," and I say in such a way where he knows I'm taking the mick a little bit. But it's also like this.
Yeah,
Take
yeah,
it. They
exactly.
like to hear it, so you've
It's
got to.
true.
You can do it yourself, but every now and then,
Yeah,
and men love of a degree of difficulty as well. So,
yeah, yeah, true. And laughter is the key in many ways. I mean, I think it's important to be like children, laugh with each other. There's a quote I love, which is don't take life too seriously. It's only a temporary situation. And I think it's
great.
really important. So listen, talking to quotes, we have a
Mm.
quote on the show.
Yeah,
And we kind of finish off with this. There's a couple of things. There's one, I want to know what your quote is.
I've
Uh,
told you already.
I want to know though.
Yeah, the definition of insanity. That changed my life because I was like, I'm doing this, literally doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different outcome, and I'm never
Yeah.
going to get it. So I need to switch. That's when I was like, I'm coming offline because that's obviously 10 years down the line. I'm still like, this is not working for me. I managed to switch it around because by the end I was like, I'm the prize, and are you good
Mm,
enough for me? And they were, and I was being taken to amazing places. So I knew that I was changing the energy there. But I didn't have time to be online and trying to get
yeah.
people to talk to me and having to come home and get from the cafe covered in ice cream and then have to get dressed and go back up to town. I was just like, if there's a good looking man in front of me, I'm going to find out whether he's single, whether he's gay, which they were most of the time when I went up to them.
The good looking ones
And
always are.
yeah, oh, married. And then I found out. And,
Yeah.
and what I'm going to say is it's a muscle that you build,
Yeah.
but no one was ever offended about me talking to them and saying that I like them,
I agree. I
that
agree.
they.
Yeah. I met my wife in Clapham Junction on platform 13. Do you know what I mean? It was that
Ah,
I think we often I remember very putting a clear intention out there for my five things we talked about. And I
mm,
said, and
yes.
you can call it what you call it, universe, God, whatever, but I really put out my intention. This is what I want. But
Mm,
I put it out without the expectation of how that would come about. And I
mhm,
think
of
that's
course.
key to it, is
Not
don't create the having the expectation. Because
the
if you,
dreaded howls.
yeah, otherwise, if it doesn't happen that way, you miss it. You miss that guy that would be right for you because it wasn't at a restaurant. So therefore, it was the guy that opened the door for me and just said hello for 5 seconds. You missed it.
Yeah.
So don't get hung up on how.
Yeah, I used to hang out in art galleries thinking that was going to be where it was, but my husband would never go. He goes to art galleries with me, but it's not going to be an art gallery. Yeah, so eventually my husband just walked up to me. I didn't even see him. But I was in that energy. I had
Yeah,
elevated myself to this level. And, and before I was having no one, like no one was even, looking at me when I was out because I wasn't having that energy. I wasn't being, men need to feel safe to approach you.
Yeah, they do.
And I was in that energy, I knew that I had men eating out of my hand. I was talking to good-looking men. I was having dates like almost every night of the week, and they were easy because they was in my area. Or I'd already spoken to them, and then I didn't like them, so I'd eliminate them immediately. So I was in this, oh my God, I am the prize. This is awesome. And he just strolled up to me.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So how do we, right, let's get to how people get hold of you, because I guarantee that you will be the next TV sensation on dating.
I
And there
really
will
want to be on Loose Women. If you can do that, I'll be so happy.
okay, I'll see what strings
That's my ultimate dream.
I'll see what strings I can pull, because it's quite interesting on my TikTok. I often say to people on TikTok, come on the show. And I find it's interesting how many people don't, that they feel like they have to be some brain ache to be on the show. Do you know what I mean? Some scientist or boffin, and because they do themselves in. So I think I'm going to put it out there, but I honestly think you're going to have a lot of people, I think primarily women, I have to be honest, will get hold of you. So how do we reach out to you? What's the best way?
My website, yourpowerwithintherapy.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Elizabeth Lang, or Instagram, Your Power Within.
Okay, so the Lang is spelled Laing
Laing,
and
yes.
pronounced Lang.
Lang,
Good,
Elizabeth Lang. But you can
good.
call me Lizzie. I'm more of a Lizzie.
Lizzie Lang. That's
Lizzie
that's
Lang.
that's a stage name if I've ever heard one. Lizzie
I
Lang.
know, I'm debating. I was like, should I check? I like, but my clients always call, my mum and dad have always called me Elizabeth,
Right.
and my friends have always called me Lizzie. So I'm like,
I
but I
kind of
like it.
like I like Elizabeth in the sense of nobody calls each other by their full name these days. It's kind of nice when they do that. I mean, I get my name's so complicated anyway, but so okay, so they can reach out to you, and is it just to email you, and can they do it online? Obviously, because I this goes out my
Oh, yeah, they can email me on Elizabeth at yourpowerwithintherapy.com.
Okay, and the reason for that is in terms of where this hits, my number one country this hits is America, the States.
Ooh, my brother
And
lives in Florida. Yeah, I've been in
so
Florida.
can I, like, if I was in America, I could get hold of you and we
I
could,
work globally all over the world. I mean, I've
okay,
got a client in Bali next week. My
okay,
regular client is in Germany.
okay.
So
And famous people can reach out to you as well, obviously.
I've worked with lots of famous people.
Good, there we go. That's really good. Listen, it's been great having you on. I really love when conversations go like this, where you never know where it's going to go. We're going to come just talk about one thing, and it goes on and talks about other thing. And I think it's really nice because it gives my listeners and viewers, because they can see this, gives them an opportunity to kind of see the authentic person,
Hmm.
like not some script.
Oh yes, no, I'm not very good with scripts at all.
No,
I get a
I'm
bit
always a
bored if I
script.
have to repeat the same thing. No, you know, word for word. It has to
Yeah.
come from the heart. If it comes from the heart, people can feel it, and that's what's authentic.
I agree. I agree. That's the most important thing. Cool. Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to be posting this very soon, and so
Mhm.
we'll get it out there to everybody. But just once again, I really want to say thank you for
No, thank you.
for being my guest. I really, really do really appreciate it.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you as well.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.